Good morning. What is today? Today is Tuesday, and as I'm sitting here kind of waiting to be ready to start this video, I'm reminded it's kind of the same energy as, I don't know if any of you have this experience, but in high school when you're wanting to call someone that you have a crush on, and you're kind of thinking, what do I say, how do I say it? Is that too much? Is this, I don't want to give away too much, but I want to be friendly. And just kind of the process of figuring out what you want to do. That's kind of how I feel when I'm starting these videos. And anything, when something's new or something's not really in your comfort zone, that's to be expected. So I just wanted to connect with you today. And hopefully you're kind of experiencing a lot of things and you're getting through it. I'm really grateful for the sessions that I'm able to provide right now. It is a really, as you all know, it's a very different time, kind of out of anything that we've experienced before, and so it's bound to just kind of create a lot of some new experiences, and then it's a new experience that kind of connects with some of these parts that it can feel pretty familiar to some of our parts, and I've been noticing that. One of the things that has been on my mind and I've been wanting to kind of talk about is something called comparative suffering, or kind of comparing our experience to someone else's. I'm reminded of, I'll give you an example. When I was training for the grief recovery method to teach that and to provide that for clients, there's a part, and those of you that have done this in session, the first meeting we will share two significant losses in our lives. And in a group setting, each person kind of goes around, and this is one of the first things that you do, where we are each talking about two significant losses. And as you know, it's going around the circle, and then kind of they told us, don't compare losses. Everybody's experiences are valid. Our relationship to things are individual, and to people are individual and unique. But yet it's really hard, like the person that was right before me, I'm thinking of all of which losses can be most significant, or which losses for me have been most significant in my life. And the person before me shares that they had a daughter that died of a heroin overdose. And I sat there, and it's one thing to know in theory, okay, we're not supposed to compare our losses or compare our suffering, but oh my gosh, how has she dealt with that? And this is what I'm thinking in the moment, my measly loss that I've experienced is nowhere near what that must be, or what I can imagine that to be. So I say this because I think it's a really natural thing for us to compare our suffering. Unfortunately, it's natural. This comparative suffering, we think in some ways, I think it's an intellectual process that we do, because it kind of tells us, where do I rank? Where do they rank? But at its core, I really feel like it goes to that real deep question that we have in ourselves, that we've been kind of conditioned, I think, to feel or to think is, how justified am I in feeling what I already feel in this loss? Is it okay that I feel this loss? Am I going to be judged by others for feeling this? Are they going to tell me that it's not that bad? Get over it. And really at our core is it okay to feel this way? And I think kind of when we look at we have the brain that's kind of telling us, okay, so that's worse. I can kind of reveal this much, or I'm just not even going to say anything about my loss. My, kind of my loss about this feels so insignificant to this other person who is grieving the loss of someone that they love to death, or whatever the case may be. But really, our experience, and I think I've mentioned this before, is our loss feels like the worst to us, right? That's what we're feeling. And so it's always going to be that way. And so that intellectual process that we do of kind of ranking our suffering with other people's suffering, it's doing something, but it's not helping kind of us to just be able to feel what we need to feel. I think that there's kind of, this happens a lot more, and this is a sign that we are in this kind of way of looking at scarcity. So a scarcity kind of mind frame. And right now we're hearing this everywhere. If you're tuning into the news, if you're talking with anyone, there is a real fear of not having enough. If you checked the toilet paper aisles, or even any kind of the disinfectants, or whatever is still not available in stores, there are people that have really kind of been convinced in this fight or flight type of panic way that they're not going to have enough. And I think when we let ourselves go, if we can kind of really identify the feeling in scarcity too, kind of goes back to us in to that really kind of place of fear and shame of, am I enough? I think with the comparative suffering too, I don't know if this feels kind of like something you've experienced, but when we're comparing our suffering to others, it doesn't necessarily stay at that, kind of that level of, I shouldn't be suffering, or I shouldn't share my suffering, or my suffering is not in any way as bad as this person, so I'm not able to feel it. I think it goes even kind of deeper to a shame level of, and I'm a bad person for feeling this loss that I just naturally feel. I shouldn't feel this loss. It's bad for me to do that when other people are suffering worse. And we know that shame basically lives in kind of this darkness and keeping it to ourselves, and it lives in that scarcity mind frame. And so just to be aware of that, at the surface we do it very easily, I feel like it's acceptable in our society, in our culture, to feel bad about our own emotions and our own loss and our own suffering, and kind of give it up to somebody else, or kind of deny what we're experiencing in kind of homage to someone else that's having more suffering. But I want to kind of also have a caveat with that, with kind of children, I think, with what they're experiencing right now. Because this all goes back to, what is the relationship that we have to something that we've lost? And that's different for everybody. So when a child is saying right now, I really miss school, and parents are like, you know what, it'll be, you'll be able to go back, and kind of going to that real, that place of like, kind of hopping them up and kind of motivating them, and kind of go, well, this will be over soon, and not really kind of putting the worth and the validation on that level. Keeping in mind that their school is, when you're a child, your world is a lot smaller. And so the loss of school is a huge deal when that's most of your life, and that's all you've experienced. And so just kind of a little reminder that it really is about the relationship that we had to something or someone, or some pattern of behavior. What kind of meaning did it have for us? And that is not comparable. And so just kind of reminding you of that. I'm also kind of interested again in just how many people are dealing with their experience in ways such as, kind of all these home projects or kind of really, I have friends that will post on Facebook with pictures of just like, I just redid my garden and then I'm making, look at this beautiful meal I made. And I'm doing inquiry with the different parts that come up for me where I just feel like, I think part of it is really kind of feeling like, is that for real? Because my personal experience with this is nothing, the way that I'm dealing with my experience is not by doing that. So, I don't know. I think it's really important to know that while we're in this kind of experience, it's okay to not have found a transformative path out of this, because we're just in it. I mean, it's only been a few weeks since we've kind of really we're grappling and wrestling with and feeling the loss of the world that we used to know. And we don't know where it's going to go. And sure, things will pick up. There will be, we will go back to work. We will find jobs. We will, be able to put our kids back in school. But right now, it's completely acceptable, and I would say even more appropriate. There isn't meaning in this yet. There isn't a gratitude, and I don't know that if there will ever be a gratitude for the coronavirus. There are ways, and I would say that this is one of the things that I would say can help us through this, if we want some things to focus on now, is to find the meaningful moments in our experience right now. Really check in with those meaningful moments without feeling the pressure or the need to kind of find meaning in this situation, because the meaning comes later, and I think that can come, and usually the meaning is within us. It's not in the grief event. Like, it's not going to be in the coronavirus. It's going to be the meaning that we found in our experience with it. And we don't ever, I don't think that there should ever be any kind of pressure to find gratitude for something that is really causing a lot of difficulty in people's lives. And it's okay to separate the two. And it's okay to let go of the pressure to find meaning or to transform at this point through this experience. I just know that I personally have kind of a wrestling that happens when I see, and social media is not a great place to camp in. So that would be one of my other tips to kind of get through this, is to limit your amount of social media and limit your access to news. I would say find some very specific news sources that you trust. I just started listening to a Sanjay Gupta podcast on CNN.com where he's talking about very specifics with COVID-19. That's just for me. I don't necessarily recommend that, but I like to kind of control the amount of information that I have without all of the emotional rhetoric. With the language, it feels like on just regular news channels, the language that is meant to cause fear and anxiety. So that's just another tip, is to really limit those things that are coming into your brain and into your home. And in finding those meaningful moments, those don't have to they're not replacing the sad moments and the really fearful moments, and kind of allowing, again, that and both. And knowing that we allow just what is already happening naturally for us emotionally, that they will typically go on their way. right? They're not going to stick. They're not going to stay. I have a couple other things that I really found important and just kind of suggestions. Having a routine. Since our routine has likely changed and we have people in our homes that are family, like how I said that, I didn't start with family, but people in our homes that are family, sometimes it can feel like that. Who are these people in my home? But so much of our structure or so much of our routine and those things that we got comfort from have changed. So it's really important to kind of establish a routine that works for you. Another thing is morning and evening rituals that are meaningful to you. And that doesn't have to be crazy intense. For me, it's just, I'm really jazzing on chai tea right now. So it's kind of creating that cup of chai tea the way that I like it, sitting in my front room, and kind of just giving myself a few moments to just be. If that also includes in the evening, writing things down, I've heard that that's helping with some people. Sleep can be really disrupted. We know that in grief, our sleep is disrupted. We know that our eating is disrupted, that we're either eating tons or we're not hungry. For me, it's eating tons. So those things are just to kind of normalize that that's happening. And these rituals are ways to kind of check in with our mental and emotional and spiritual parts, or those parts of us, to kind of then gain some groundedness and some structure. I want to also, not all of us are in homes with other people. Some of us are kind of on our own in our homes. And so I think it's really important to identify that connection with those parts of us that are needing parenting or needing compassion is really important, as well as connecting with others. And I think, things are so easy right now online to make, connections happen with others. That doesn't mean that it's easy for us to do that, because a lot of times we'll isolate in times of grief. So just to notice that too, what keeps you from connecting with others, and kind of just really acknowledge that. And then the last thing that I can talk more about, because I think it's really important, and we may not even have ever done this kind of evaluation, but it's balancing between the activities that increase your energy with those inevitable activities that take our energy. And those that kind of take energy are things like paying bills, working, providing food for family or feeding families, parenting, any kind of thing that once you're done with it, you feel like, oh my gosh, I need a rest, or I need something needs to happen because I feel beat. With balancing activities that kind of increase your energy. And that also goes into what kind of relationships increase our energy. Those people that you actually gain energy from, and then there's people, oftentimes they might be in your home, that really take your energy. So it's starting to be aware of that too, and knowing that if you are doing a lot of things that just take your energy, there needs to be something that brings that back, and it's up to you to kind of start to identify what are those things that put energy back. Because if not, you're going to be depleted, and this experience is going to be is a painful experience already, is going to be kind of increased exponentially with those kind of things that just like, I don't even want to do this anymore. So I hope something in this was helpful. If you're still watching, I'm glad. And again, I'm really grateful for this medium that I'm able to connect with you. And I'm really grateful for those that I'm able to see through this time period. So everyone be well and healthy, and I'll see you soon.